All right, let's get real for a second. Being smart isn't just about what you know. It's about how you move through life. It's about the choices you make, the standards you set, and the rules you refuse to break. And here's the thing, successful, confident women, they don't leave their happiness, success, or self-worth up to chance. They follow a set of rules that keep them focused, unstoppable, and in control. Today, we're diving into the 7 non-negotiable rules that smart women live by. These aren't just ideas. They're the kind of mindset shifts that separate the women who struggle from the ones who thrive. So if you're tired of second-guessing yourself, feeling stuck, or letting other people dictate your worth, this is for you. Let's go. Understand that their energy is their most valuable resource, and they don't waste it on things that drain them. They are intentional about where they focus their time, attention, and emotions. If something isn't adding value to their life, whether it's a toxic relationship, unnecessary drama, or endless scrolling through social media, they cut it off without hesitation. They know that every time they say yes to something that doesn't serve them, they're saying no to something that does. This isn't about being selfish. It's about being strategic. You can't show up as your best self if you're constantly exhausted, mentally cluttered, and emotionally drained. That's why smart women protect their energy like it's gold, because it is. They don't engage in pointless arguments. They don't waste time proving themselves to people who will never see their worth. They don't give second chances to things that repeatedly break them. Instead, they focus on growth, joy, and purpose. It's also about learning to recognize what lifts you up versus what pulls you down. Smart women surround themselves with people who support, challenge, and inspire them. They create environments that fuel their motivation rather than drain it. And most importantly, they listen to their own needs. If they need rest, they take it. If they need space, they create it. If something feels off, they trust their instincts because they know that when their energy is strong, their mind is clear, and their heart is full, they are unstoppable. Smart women know that boundaries are not just important, they are essential. They understand that without clear limits, people will take as much as they can, whether intentionally or not. That's why they don't leave their time, energy, or emotional well-being up for negotiation. They set boundaries that protect their peace. And most importantly, they enforce them without guilt. A smart woman doesn't overextend herself just to make others comfortable. She doesn't say yes when she means no. She doesn't stay silent when something bothers her just to avoid conflict. She knows that boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about protecting what matters: her mental health, her personal time, her career, her goals, and her emotional stability. And here's the key. She doesn't apologize for them. She doesn't feel the need to over-explain or make excuses. If she decides that she's not answering work emails after 7 p.m., she doesn't feel guilty about it. If she chooses to prioritize self-care instead of constantly accommodating others, she doesn't feel the need to justify it. She understands that people who truly respect her will honor her boundaries, and those who don't, they were only benefiting from her lack of them. Enforcing boundaries is a skill, and smart women get better at it with practice. They recognize that at first some people may push back. They may call her difficult or selfish for putting herself first, but she doesn't let that shake her because she knows that those reactions say more about the other person than they do about her. She stands firm, knowing that every time she upholds a boundary, she reinforces her self-respect. The truth is, boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about keeping yourself intact. A smart woman refuses to pour from an empty cup, and she knows that by protecting her time and energy, she's actually showing up as a stronger, healthier, and more present version of herself for the people and things that truly matter. Smart women don't shrink themselves by over-apologizing. They understand that constantly saying sorry for things that don't require an apology is a habit that diminishes their confidence, weakens their presence, and makes them seem unsure of themselves. They don't apologize for taking up space, having an opinion, enforcing boundaries, or prioritizing their own needs. Instead, they speak with clarity, take responsibility only when necessary, and refuse to apologize for simply existing as their true selves. Over-apologizing is a learned behavior, often rooted in the fear of making others uncomfortable or being seen as difficult. But smart women recognize that not everything is their fault, and not every situation requires them to say sorry. They don't apologize for asking questions in a meeting. They don't say sorry when someone bumps into them. They don't apologize for being busy, for needing rest, or for not responding to a message right away. They replace unnecessary apologies with confidence. Instead of "sorry, I'm late," they say, "thanks for waiting." Instead of "sorry for speaking up," they say, "I'd like to add something." This shift in language is powerful. It rewires the way they see themselves and how others perceive them. A smart woman owns her actions and acknowledges mistakes when necessary, but she doesn't take on blame that isn't hers to carry. She understands the difference between being accountable and being excessively self-critical. She doesn't apologize just to smooth things over or to make others feel comfortable at her own expense. By cutting out the habit of over-apologizing, she strengthens her voice and presence. She shows the world that she believes in her own worth, and she teaches people how to treat her not as someone who constantly second-guesses herself, but as someone who stands firmly in her truth. Smart women replace unnecessary apologies with self-assurance, and that small but powerful shift changes the way they move through the world. Smart women understand that the best investment they will ever make is in themselves. They don't wait for permission, approval, or the perfect time to start growing. They take charge of their own development, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially, because they know that no one else will do it for them. Investing in yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity, and smart women treat it that way. This investment starts with knowledge. Smart women are lifelong learners. They read books, take courses, seek mentorship, and stay curious. They don't assume they know everything, nor do they let fear of failure stop them from learning new skills. Whether it's advancing in their career, starting a business, or simply expanding their mindset, they see personal growth as the foundation of their success. They understand that the more they learn, the more options they create for themselves. But investing in yourself isn't just about education, it's also about health. A smart woman knows that she can't perform at her best if she's constantly exhausted, stressed, or neglecting her well-being. She makes self-care a priority, not a last-minute fix. She fuels her body with good nutrition, prioritizes exercise, and ensures she gets enough rest. She doesn't see these things as selfish. She sees them as essential to showing up as her best self in every area of life. Financially smart women make decisions that secure their future. They learn about money, build multiple income streams, and save for the long term. They don't rely on someone else to handle their finances for them. They understand that financial independence gives them choices. The freedom to walk away from toxic jobs, relationships, or situations that no longer serve them. And most importantly, smart women invest in their mindset. They eliminate limiting beliefs, surround themselves with people who inspire them, and commit to personal growth, even when it's uncomfortable. They don't wait for someone to hand them an opportunity. They create it, because they know that every step they take toward becoming a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of themselves is an investment that will pay off for the rest of their lives. Smart women know that saying no is a complete sentence. They don't feel the need to justify, over-explain, or soften their refusal just to make others comfortable. They understand that every time they say yes to something they don't truly want, they are saying no to themselves, their time, their energy, and their priorities. That's why they master the art of saying no without explaining. People often struggle with saying no because they fear disappointing others, being seen as rude, or missing out on opportunities. But smart women recognize that their time is valuable and not every request deserves a yes. They don't agree to last-minute plans just because they don't want to seem unkind. They don't take on extra work just to avoid conflict. They don't feel obligated to justify why they can't attend an event, take on a project, or do someone a favor. Instead of saying, "I'm so sorry I can't make it because I have a lot going on," they simply say, "I won't be able to make it, but thanks for the invite." The power in saying no without explanation is that it sets a clear boundary. The more details you give, the more room you leave for negotiation. If you say, "I can't help you move because I have a busy weekend," the other person might push back, "Oh, but it won't take long." But when you say, "I can't," there's nothing to argue with. It's firm, it's direct, and it's enough. Smart women also understand that they don't owe an explanation for prioritizing their own needs. They don't need to justify why they need rest, why they're focusing on their own projects, or why they simply don't want to do something. They recognize that guilt is not a valid reason to say yes. They trust that the people who respect them will accept their no without demanding a reason, and those who don't, that's their problem, not theirs. Saying no without explaining isn't about being cold or unkind. It's about honoring your own limits. It's about recognizing that you don't need permission to prioritize yourself. It's about taking ownership of your time and energy without feeling obligated to make excuses. Smart women set their boundaries with confidence, and they don't feel the need to defend them. Smart women understand that the people they surround themselves with have a direct impact on their mindset, success, and overall happiness. They are intentional about who they allow into their lives because they know that energy is contagious, both positive and negative. They don't waste time with people who drain them, discourage them, or hold them back. Instead, they build a circle of friends, mentors, and partners who uplift, challenge, and inspire them to be their best selves. This doesn't mean they only surround themselves with people who agree with them all the time. In fact, smart women welcome different perspectives, as long as those perspectives come from a place of growth and respect. They want to be around people who push them to think bigger, dream bolder, and step outside their comfort zone. They seek out relationships that are based on mutual support, not competition or jealousy. At the same time, they recognize the warning signs of toxic relationships. They don't tolerate people who constantly criticize, belittle, or manipulate them. They don't waste energy on friendships that feel one-sided, where they're always giving but never receiving. They set boundaries with family members who overstep or try to control their choices. They are not afraid to walk away from relationships, whether personal or professional, that no longer serve them. Smart women also understand the importance of mentorship and learning from those who have walked the path before them. They actively seek out people who have the knowledge, experience, and wisdom to help them grow. They don't let pride or insecurity stop them from asking for advice or learning from others. At the same time, they also make sure to pay it forward, uplifting and supporting the people around them. Ultimately, they know that their environment shapes them. If they surround themselves with negativity, self-doubt, and drama, that's what they'll absorb. But if they surround themselves with ambition, positivity, and people who genuinely want to see them succeed, that energy will push them to become stronger, more confident, and more successful. Smart women are selective about their circle because they know that the right people don't just support their growth, they accelerate it. Smart women trust their gut. They don't let the noise of other people's opinions drown out their inner voice. They understand that while advice and feedback can be helpful, at the end of the day, they are the ones who have to live with their choices. That's why they prioritize their own instincts over external validation. They don't wait for everyone to agree with them before making a move. They don't second-guess themselves just because someone else doubts them. They've learned that their intuition is one of their most powerful tools, and they listen to it without hesitation. This doesn't mean they ignore logic or make reckless decisions. On the contrary, smart women gather information, analyze their options, and think critically. But they also know that sometimes their instincts pick up on things that logic alone can't explain. Maybe it's a feeling that a job opportunity isn't the right fit, even though it looks perfect on paper. Maybe it's sensing that someone's intentions aren't genuine, even if they haven't done anything obviously wrong. Maybe it's a deep inner pull toward a new opportunity that no one else understands yet. Smart women don't ignore those signals. They honor them. One of the biggest reasons people ignore their gut is fear. Fear of making the wrong choice, fear of disappointing others, fear of stepping into the unknown. But smart women know that fear is always present when growth is happening. They don't let it paralyze them. They recognize the difference between fear that signals real danger and fear that comes from stepping outside their comfort zone. They learn to separate self-doubt from intuition, and they act accordingly. They also know that trusting their gut doesn't mean they have to explain or justify their decisions to everyone. Sometimes people won't understand why they walked away from a seemingly great relationship, declined an opportunity, or chose a different path. But smart women don't need permission to follow their instincts. They know that deep down, they know what's best for them. And every time they trust themselves, they strengthen that inner confidence even more. In a world full of noise, opinions, and outside influences, a smart woman stays grounded in her own truth. She doesn't let fear, doubt, or other people's expectations control her decisions. She listens to her gut, takes action with confidence, and stands by her choices, because she knows that no one else is living her life except her.